Hello and welcome to part 2 of my reading on Jasmine and Gino from 90 Day Fiancé. Just continuing where I left off. In part 1 we discussed Jasmine. Now we turn our focus to her significant other, Gino. This is based on a love chart I made on January 16th, 2022. Before I was aware of the drama between Gino and Jasmine after he leaked her nudes to an ex. Yikes. Gino is Saturn in Aquarius in the 6th house here. Very appropriate, as he is fairly tall at 6'2" and an older gentleman, as Saturn in Aquarius might describe. And he's a little weird, but we like that. It's entertaining. Saturn isn't ideal to represent a love interest, as this means they are naturally very cold, or will treat the person they're involved with coldly, even if they have good intentions. This really isn't fiery, passionate, romantic energy. I'm not surprised a person with this energy would consider a toothbrush an appropriate gift for their fiancé. To be fair, being cold isn't always a bad thing. It can be productive. At first on the show, I was annoyed at Gino's non-reaction when Jasmine was venting her heart out, besides the dumb comments he made. Overall, being mostly silent and letting her vent was the second best thing he could have done. Calm, afraid, I think those words meant the same thing to Gino in that moment. Saturn is significantly strong here. Despite what some may think, Gino is calling the shots for the direction of the relationship and has the most power here. Jasmine's planet, the Sun, is submissive to Saturn here, and so she would have to go along with it. Let's look at some stars joined to Saturn here, Gino's planet. Saturn conjunct Armus by 40 minutes. Disagreeable, stubborn, contentious nature. That definitely seems to speak of his attitude towards the relationship when confronted with his wrongdoings. Saturn conjunct Dorsum by 26 minutes. Interesting. There's some other angsty things in store, but let's take a moment to talk about Gino's money. Gino has claimed he's unemployed, but he definitely doesn't act like most people would expect an unemployed person to. Spending money on new clothes at his girlfriend's whim, or taking exotic vacations. Before I made this chart, knowing about stocks, I thought he might be resting on some investments. Gino has confirmed on the show that he has about 650 grand buying and selling stocks, but is reluctant to dip into this money until he works again. After I made this chart, it was obvious to me that he wasn't broke. He's most likely telling the truth. I'm pretty sure that Gino is not a crazed drug addict, so I do think that Jupiter and Pisces with Neptune here does confirm great wealth. Neptune in Gino's money house confirms a great amount of his wealth isn't physical currency, but digital, and to a degree, made up. By that I mean, stocks aren't real money until you sell them, so Neptune is a fitting descriptor here. Will Gino work again? I see there are opportunities to earn money, but the South Node, a marker of damage in his career house, is a bad omen. This likely means that his escapades while traveling are going to harm any traditional career opportunities, and he is better off with his self-made income. I see it very likely that he works for himself long term. There are some troubling planets. As you can see, there's a lot going on in Gino's signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. There is a lot of negative energy. I'll do my best to explain what's going on here. This means the following I'm about to describe. Gino, as the captain of the relationship, is responsible for, not Jasmine. As the captain of the ship, his compass is a little bit broken. We have Mercury retrograde and a lot of fortune prominently. That's no good. They are both at 9 degrees Aquarius, meaning whatever Mercury retrograde represents, and if you know about astrology, you probably have an idea. This is a huge negative influence on the relationship. The lot of fortune in this chart is the potential good fortune of the relationship. So we have Mercury here as a malefic, that is to say, an agent of destruction, destroying the relationship. How is it being destroyed? In a mercurial fashion, by something spoken, written, communicated. The sign Aquarius is a strong suggestion of this destruction, involving the internet and the masses. Next, we have Venus retrograde in the 5th house of love and children. Venus retrograde is inauspicious here, showing there's something holding the relationship back. In this case, I think it is the issue with Jasmine being reluctant to have children with Gino. So besides the troubled planets I've mentioned, what else is going wrong here? What are Gino's vices? For Jasmine, I think she's too emotional and extreme. But what about Gino? Even though Gino is capable of helping the relationship be really successful, as the strong Saturn in Aquarius, at the same time he isn't. This is because Saturn is in what I call a broken house, the 6th house. In a relationship chart, you don't want a bulk of the planets here, or any planets in the 6th house really. As I mentioned in Jasmine's reading, this is the 12th house from relationships, and thus it is a place of suffering for the relationship. This is the house of Gino's vices, self-undoing and suffering. This means potentially that he can act like a stupid old man. So fundamentally, the relationship is troubled by Gino's mistakes. Jasmine isn't innocent, but she is reacting more than creating the negative situations. Lastly, Venus retrograde shows another vice of Gino's is women. This is concerning. I hope that he's not a cheater, but hopefully, as I think it is, this is in the past, not his future. Could this be a reference to the many sugar baby dates he's admitted to having in the past? And other things? What's good here is that Gino's planet Saturn is moving out of the 6th house into a place of great strength. Things should improve on Gino's end very slowly.